Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, we are not construction workers. We have not come into this world for building big temples or any such thing, but rather we are initiated into the mantra Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtana. And that is our creed. We are to spread the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in the world. It is the religious practice of this age, the only necessity of this Kali Yuga. Chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And it doesn't matter where you live, or what you do in life, or anything like that, doesn't matter. And the only reason we have these temples and centers and so on is to facilitate that. They are not goals in themselves, building temples or building big centers or anything, but they are, as much as they're utilized for this preaching of Nama Sankirtan, then they're useful. Otherwise, maybe they're just a big encumbrance on us. And with that, in other words, we should not forget the purpose for which they are. We have these buildings, these centers. They are to facilitate Harinam Sankirtan. Wow, that's the same doorbell that I have at my house. So I think that's delivery from Amazon or something. Nama Sankirtan is the only necessity for all of us. Our gurus didn't come to preach Varnashram Dharma. They didn't come to preach any kind of political solution to the world, problems of the world, or even any spiritual, so-called spiritual methodology for solving the problems of the world. It's not our purpose to solve the problems of this material world. In fact, Saraswati Thakur said, if the world were perfect, if Krishna removed all of the troubles in the material world, we might make the mistake of thinking that it is our home. And that's why there are always so many problems and difficulties in this world and in our lives. So that we don't just get comfortable and think that this material world is where we should live and that it's okay, actually, no. He said, living in this world is like camp life. Meaning, it's like when you go on holiday, you live in some temporary accommodation for some time. But it is not our home. And Srila Guru Maharaj extends this idea when he speaks about home comfort. And when you're in the comfort of your own home, you have no necessity for anything. Because everyone there takes more attention for you than you will take for yourself. They have more care about you than you have for your own self. And everything is already there. So, then... And Guru Maharaj said, this is why our gurus have built these centers to help to cure us of the disease of homemaking. He said, this is a disease in this material world, homemaking. And everyone's doing that, aren't they? Trying to make some home for themselves here. But it's like if you go, let's say you go to another country on holiday and you're staying in a nice hotel and for a few weeks. If you start redecorating and putting up pictures and all kinds of things, the owners of that hotel are going to get a little worried, aren't they? What the hell is that person doing in there? remodeling the hotel room, and they might think you're in trouble. You need to see a psychiatrist, right? Because everyone knows it's not your home, so stop trying to make it into your home. But here we do it, and everyone thinks, oh, that's nice, isn't it? Oh, they've made that very nice there, like a nice arrangement. And not only that, everybody's like competing with each other, aren't they? Our neighbour's got a new patio. We should get a bigger patio, and some other things as well. Like keeping up with the Joneses, we used to call it when I was younger. So it's a kind of madness in this material world. And so somebody asked me this question when I was in Kiev some years ago. Avadut Maharaj arranged some boats. There's a river there, and then 2 boats he arranged there, and we had some Sankirtan festival on these boats going down the river. And each boat had like 2 decks, and a lot of devotees there. And so he asked me, one of the decks, he asked me, you go and answer their questions, if anyone has questions there, so. This lady asked me, then there's so many difficulties in this world, and why does Krishna allow that? So much suffering, so many. It's a common question. If God is all compassionate and all loving, why does He allow so much suffering in this world? Why doesn't He sort that out first? And more or less that was my reply. Well, if He thought it was necessary to do that, He'd already done it. And the reason He doesn't do that is just to remind us that this world is not our home. And we are all looking for home. There's a book, like a New Age book, by this, she's kind of well known, especially in this country, this New Age author called, she's so well known I can't remember her name, Louise Hay. His name's Louise Hay. And she's written this book, and it's called All Sickness is Homesickness. And I've not read the book. I don't really know what it's about, but I like the title. And that's the truth, All our problems in this material world is homesickness. That we're looking for our home. We're looking for that place where we belong. And as Guru Maharaj says, where we find home comfort. Only we try to make that ourselves, like mad people in the hotel, remodeling it, thinking that we can make a home here in the temporary world, because everything is temporary. So, to do that, that's why Sridhar Maharaj says, the disease of homemaking, We want to do that. And I see that even devotees do that, right? A lot of our devotees, they've got a retirement plan. They do. They've been working many years and so on, looking after their family, and that's all fine, that's great. But they've got a plan, when they retire, they're moving back to their country, they've been building a house there for the last 20 years, they're going to live in their Krishna consciousness retirement home, But that's not what we're meant to do. We're meant to try to give ourselves for the service of Krishna. Not making any kind of, contingency plan for our comfort and convenience in our life. And as you get older, you think about that more, what's going to happen to me when I'm old and useless? And somebody has to look after me, then what's going to happen, Maybe I should be making some arrangement for that. So we don't blame anybody for thinking in that way. But, Prabhupada says that himself. That, we shouldn't be thinking that now I'm young and I should be enjoying life and doing all the things that young people do and everything, and when I'm old I can, and I'm clapped out, I can throw myself at Krishna's lotus feet. Well, here I am, Lord, I can't do anything anymore, but here I am, I'm surrendering myself to you, I hope you've sorted out my retirement plan. So, we should try to utilize our time now. And almost that's a kind of a sadhana in itself. Especially if you have got a family and children and all those responsibilities. You have to juggle your life in such a way that it's still Krishna-centered. Has to be Krishna-centered. Otherwise, what are you going to do? It's no big deal making the material arrangement for your family, because everybody does that, don't they? Everybody's doing that. Great, do that. But the big deal is, while you're doing that, try and keep your life centered on Krishna. That's the real thing that we need to do. We need to be able to center our life on Krishna in whatever circumstance we find ourselves. So, that's the key, that's the secret, that's the necessity to our lives. Whoever we are, whatever we've got going on in our life, and that's different for everyone, but broadly the same, actually. We're just trying to survive, aren't we? We're just trying to survive in this material world. But more than just trying to survive, we have to try and shape our life in such a way that always Krishna is at the center of that. That's our necessity. So Krishna doesn't need anything from us. He's fully self-sufficient. He's enjoying, like anything in Goloka Vrindavan, with his eternal associates. He doesn't even need to give us a second thought. But we need him because actually we need him more than we need oxygen to breathe. That's the reality. Because we're part of him. We're created by him. And everything in this creation is meant for his satisfaction. So that means we're also meant for his satisfaction. So we're all so absorbed in our own struggles that we forget that. And we think that, just like keeping our head above water and surviving, that's our first and main necessity. But that takes care of itself, more or less, actually, We just make things more complicated than they actually need to be. So what do we need in life, really? We don't need very much, do we? We just need a little food and a little shelter. And, 6 feet to lie down at night, some food in our belly, and a little money for our basic necessities. Most people are managing that. Whoever they are, they're managing that. But there's a whole industry out there trying to convince us that there's so many other things we need as well. You need to have that 60-inch plasma screen TV. You need to have that new Mercedes-Benz because your friends have got. My friends have all got Porsches. I must make amends, as the song says. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? So, there's a whole industry out there trying to convince you need all these things. Like no one was ever fit before if they didn't have an Apple Watch, right? Now you've got to have an Apple Watch to be fit because it tells you how many steps to take and how many things it monitors you. Nobody could do it before, but now, if you've got your Apple Watch, you can be running down the California highway with the beautiful girl running beside you, You can be one of the really cool people. You couldn't do it before, but now you've got an Apple Watch. Now you can do it, right? So, that's how clever they are at advertising these things. They don't even advertise the product. They advertise the lifestyle that goes with it. You know, if you want to be one of the really cool people, you've got to have all those things. And mainly people believe that. They believe that. They see, you know, Stella McCartney coming out of her beautiful apartment in Beverly Hills, driving an Audi. They thought, I better have an Audi, you know. If I want to be like Stella McCartney, I should need an Audi. Then, not just any Audi, it's got to be the electric one that just, you know, doesn't run on fossil fuel. Apart from the electricity is powered by fossil fuel generators. Sorry, yeah. Anyway, not to get into all of that, but you know, it makes you feel good about yourself, right? You feel good because you're driving the same Audi that Stella McCartney drives, and you feel righteous for that. And there's so many things, right? So many things that we think that we need in our life, but if you shave it all back, we don't need any of those things. We don't need anything at all, actually. In fact, Saraswati Thakur says, there's nothing in this material world that's a necessity. He even goes as far as to say, you don't even need this body. You can live without this body. I'm not saying that anyone should try that, but you know, we understand that's the principle, right? He says, as soon as you come into this material world, the very things that are opposite to what you actually need, they become the necessities of your life. That's the nature of Maya. The nature of Maya. And we easily buy into it. But we don't need any of those things. What we need is the service of Krishna. We're kind of... I'm not even sure about this anymore, you know. That we're the rebellious jivas that are trying to live separate from Krishna. We are. But I also think that ultimately that's all part of the Lord's Leela too. And we're part of that. This is a dangerous thing to say, but I believe that. Because, you know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Radha Govinda combined, his Leela is rescuing the fallen jivas of this material world. If there wasn't a material world full of fallen jivas, he wouldn't be able to do that, would he? So I think we're also integral to his plan for that. Well, I'm not advocating, as one of my friends said to me, if Lord Chaitanya is going to rescue the most fallen first, then I'm going to be as fallen as I can be. I'm not advocating that either. But, you know, maybe our perspective isn't all that this material world is all wicked and evil and doom and gloom, right? Because, remarkably, Srila Guru Maharaj has indicated to us that Krishna's Leela in this material world, we call Bhauma Leela, when Krishna comes to the material world and brings his entourage here, which we understand to be the facsimile of Goloka Vrindavan, coming here as Gokul Vrindavan. Srila Guru Maharaj, not just Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Jiva Goswami and other acharyas of our sampradaya, they've indicated that Gokul Vrindavan is the original and Goloka is the facsimile. That blows my mind when I think about that. There, I mean, two things, right? First, that we hear that Srimati Radharani, when Krishna told her he was coming to perform his Leela here in this Bhauma, in this material world, she said, I'm not going unless you take the the whole Vrindavan with you, and not like make a copy, the original. You have to bring the original, the whole thing, wholesale. Twice she said that was like her condition of coming. Has to be the whole thing, real thing, not like a pretend one. And so why do we think that? Why does Guru Maharaj say that maybe the Goloka is the pretend one, if you like, the facsimile? This is Jiva Goswami has explained this in his commentary to Brahma Samhita, that in Goloka Vrindavan there are no demons there that come to try and kill Krishna, just rumors of demons. And in Goloka Vrindavan, none of the cowherd girls are married to anyone but Krishna. They just feel they are. They have that, like a feeling that they belong to another, but actually they belong to Krishna. Those things are only real in Gokul Vrindavan. In Gokul Vrindavan, those demons come and try and kill Krishna, and Krishna kills them, isn't it? Not just rumors, that it actually happens. And in Gokul Vrindavan, the cowherd girls are married to, even Radharani, she's married to Abhimanyu Ghosh. And and they come to Krishna in the night. When Krishna plays his flute, they have to come. They're drawn by that. So that's Guru Maharaj says that we conclude from that Gokul is the original, and Goloka is the transcendental facsimile in Vaikuntha. And that's like mind-blowing. It's really mind-blowing. But it means that this material world has a greater purpose than just being the prison house for the rebellious souls. And it also has this function of being the place of Lord Chaitanya's Leela, of rescuing the fallen souls. There are no fallen souls in Goloka Vrindavan for him to rescue. It's also saying that, that the spiritual world, there's the Vrindavan side and there's the Navadvip side. Both are eternal parts of the Vrindavan, Navadvip Vrindavan. But no fallen souls there, just rumors of fallen souls in Goloka. The fallen souls are here. That's us. So, then we have some part to play in the Lord's pastimes. Like, as incredible as that may seem, it's actually true. We exist to fulfill His purpose. I think it was Mark Twain who said, the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you realize why you were born. Now, then this is a kind of important idea for us to come to terms with, that we exist for His purpose. Maybe we don't know the details of that at this point, but we can be sure that it's real, that it's true. We do exist. We do have some integral part to play in the Lord's Leela. However fallen we are, however insignificant we are, otherwise we wouldn't exist. So this world isn't here just for us to revolve eternally. Birth, death, old age, disease, birth, death, old age, disease. And not just for that. It has some part to play for the Lord's purpose. Integral to the Lord's purpose. And it seems incredibly important. Not just, like peripheral or secondary, but primary. Has some primary reason to exist. Gokul Vrindavan exists here, not there. That's the facsimile in Vaikuntha. So, that in itself is enough to keep us up at night, isn't it? Thinking our mind thinking about all of these things. It keeps me awake sometimes thinking about these things. But in a good way. It's a good thing. We should be thinking about these things in a good way. Otherwise we can become a little despondent if we just focus on all the bad things in this world. And there are plenty of those things to focus on, both collectively and individually. As the song says, there's only three things for sure: taxes, death, and trouble. That's the very nature of this material world, or rather, the very nature of material life. That's all you've got to look forward to: taxes, death, and trouble. And sometimes I think about that, like, how do people exist in this world with only that to look forward to? With only that to be, that they can deal with in this life? That's kind of very depressing. So, we hear Guru Maharaj saying, that everybody is searching after rasa. That means everyone's searching after joy. Everyone's searching after happiness. We just don't know where we should be looking. And Krishna comes to this material world, and Krishna's devotees come in this material world to show us where we should be looking, to show us the direction of our fortune. That it's not outside, it's not external, it's not about anything external. It's within you. And you have to just, channel your energy to looking in the right direction. Often we think that in our life. We get this bizarre idea that, my life's kind of miserable here. If I change my location, then I'll be happy. Start anew, a fresh start, a new place, a new thing. Okay. The only problem with that is, wherever you go, there you are. That's the whole problem with that, because it's not the place or the circumstance or any of those things. The problem's you. You're the problem. You can change your environment, Maybe you've got noisy neighbours, so you want to move to a more peaceful location. But it's not about the noisy neighbours, actually. It's about your reaction to the noisy neighbours. That's the crux of the matter. Everything is about you, how you respond to everything. And those who are situated on the spiritual plane, there's nothing of this in this material world that can bother you. Although, also it's told in the scripture, Adhyatmik, Adhidaivik, Adhibodhik, these things are always there to bother us. Trouble from other living entities, trouble from nature or the environment, and trouble from our mind. All these troubles that are there, but they're all superficial. Srila Guru Maharaj says they're all mental mushrooms. We think that all of these things make up who we are. In fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, once one's over the age of 40, very difficult to preach to that person. He says that in an article. He says, because by the time you're 40, you've already decided what your outlook on life is and what your philosophy of life is, generally, then to change that, we know the old saying is it's not easy for an old dog to learn new tricks. And people say that, I'm too old to change, it's just how I am, I'm too old to change. But the point is, it's not who you are. It's not who you are. You're not any of those things. They're just all superficial mushrooms. But we think that they've grown up within us and they form part of who we are. All these prejudices and conceptions that we've that we've learnt in our life. We think they're what make up who we are. But Guru Maharaj says, just like mushrooms, they have no roots. Where mushrooms grow, if you get a bucket of water or a hose pipe, you can just blow them away with some water because they're not rooted to the ground. They're just floating on the surface. So similarly, all of these things, we think they're deep-rooted within us, but they're not. They're just floating on the surface. But it means you have to go a little deep within yourself to understand that. To look within yourself to understand that. And you can learn new things. And you can shed the old things. Whoever you are and however old you might be. But we, Saraswati Thakur says, we admit after a certain age it's difficult. That's why it's always good to begin your spiritual education from a young age. When your mind is fresh, when your mind is able to receive new things easier. It's good, it's important. But it's never too late. And similarly with our spiritual sadhana, because sadhana is also important for us. We're not just armchair philosophers, we're just discussing, abstract ideas or philosophy or any of those things. There are spiritual missions that believe that all you have to do is conceptualize it, and you're that. Whatever you are, whatever it is. If you think it, you are it. But it's not true. It isn't true. In fact, that's become like a kind of mania nowadays, isn't it? That you have to, whatever people identify themselves as, you have to recognize that. That's the new kind of liberal thinking. There was recently a girl at school, it was in the newspaper, she said, that she identifies herself as a cat, and that the school, they had to recognize her as being a cat, and there was a big thing about it. But the head teacher said something which I liked very much. He said, we gave her a fail in her exams because if she's a cat, we've still got a big mouse problem at the school, and she hasn't done anything about it, so we have to fail her. So anyway, not to be too flippant, but so there are those who think if you just imagine yourself as a spiritual being, then you're a spiritual being, like whatever that might be. But it is true, Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, proper realization comes from proper conceptualization, first of all. You do have to conceptualize, but that doesn't mean imagining. It doesn't mean just like it's subject to your imagination, to whatever you think it might be. And also Krishna, while we're on the subject, Krishna is not subject to your imagination either. You can't just make up some method of worshipping Krishna and it's okay, I've seen this has become a fashion in some of our sister missions. I see there's a girl, a woman in Vrindavan. You might have seen her even yourself. I saw her. that she's got this deity of Balagopal deity, like bigger than life size, and she pushes around Vrindavan in a pushchair. She thinks that's her worship, like caring for this deity like it's her baby. Another thing that's become a fashion now, in the 1980s, I don't know if some of you might remember, that there was a thing that came up in America called pet rocks. Do any of you remember that? Pet rocks, that people got rocks and they painted them with faces and everything, and you kept your pet rock, just like an imagination thing, you know. So some devotees, they think that the worship of the Govardhan Shila is like having a pet rock. So not only do they have a Krishna Shila, they get another Govardhan Shila, rock from Govardhan, paint a girl's face on it and say it's Radharani. But there's no precedent for that in our Sampradaya. There's not one devotee, substantial devotee, in our Sampradaya that's done that. Just imaginary. And another one, they get a dark one, so this is Krishna, and they get a light one, this is Balaram. This is imagination. It is not real. It's not like something you can just make up and that looks cute. Oh, that's lovely. Look at that, how pretty, you know. Stick some rubber lips on it and some false eyelashes and say, oh, that's Jai, that's wonderful, you know. No, it's not. We follow Guru Parampara. And according to the Guru Parampara, the worship of Govardhan Shila is two kind of worship of Govardhan Shila. One is as Haridasa Bharjan, the Lord as the supreme servitor of Krishna. Govardhan is the supreme servitor of Krishna, and he's worshipped alone. And the other is like Raghunath Das Goswami, who was given the Govardhan Shila with the Radha Kundamala by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that Radha Kundamala means the Gunjamala, two kinds. Gunjamala is from the berries of a gunja tree that grows in Radhakund, and the other is beads made from the clay of Radhakund, which both are considered to be non-different from Srimati Radharani, and they're worshipped along with the Govardhan Shila as Radha and Govinda. So these are the two types of worship of the Govardhan Shila which have been authorized in our Sampradaya. And not any other ones that you just want to make up as you go along. No, it's not that subject to our imagination, however cute it might look. Having said that, Radha Raman in Vrindavan, we know that Radha Raman manifested from the Salagram Shila of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He had 12 or 14 Shalagram Shilas, and in the night he had a dream, and in the dream Krishna told him, check your Shalagram Shilas. He was worshipping them. The next morning when he woke up, he found he had one of those Shalagram Shilas had manifested himself as Raman with a Krishna form. And you've seen that deity. He's like so big with the eyes and playing the flute and all of that, you know. So self-manifested. Then in our Vrindavan temple, when in Seva Kunj, there Radha Rasa Bihari Ju. And Radha Rasa Bihari, they were already there when that temple was acquired, the small deity. Then Gurudev, and then he commissioned the big deities that went with them. But he sent Bhakti Lalita to the Radharaman temple and said, I want to find out from them how they worship the Radharaman, so that we can do similar worship. So you see there, Raman is there, but you cannot see Radharani. Although there's some dress there and everything, there's no figure of Radharani there. Then Bhakti Lalita asked one of the Goswamis of the Radharaman temple, how you worship Radharani? What's the form of Radharani? And they told her that form is a piece of concrete on which was carved the name Sri Radha. And they worship that as Radharani. So, in other words, they worship her name on a piece of concrete, and they dress that and as the consort of Raman, Radha Raman. So, and that's accepted by the worshippers. Of course, those worshippers, they say they're in the line of, or descendant of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, but Gopal Bhatta wasn't married, so he had no children. But they're the priests that he engaged. After Radharaman manifested, he arranged a temple, and those pandits, the Goswamis of that temple, they're the descendants of the original. I think his name was Radharaman Goswami, but they say we're descendants of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, but not physically, because Gopal Bhatta didn't have any children. But anyhow, that worship is accepted. But it's not that we can just introduce any new kind of worship ourselves, and that's okay. It's not subject to our imagination. Everything we do is according to Guru Parampara. In fact, Srila Govinda Maharaj said, unless all of the lines coming after Saraswati Thakur, unless they accept the teachings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as being central, then they'll become deviant sampradayas. And I told one of my friends, the problem is with your mission is that you're afraid of your own tradition. Rather look to, so the Gujarati worship, or look to the other Madhva Sampradaya or Ramanuja Sampradaya, rather than look at your own tradition because of some fear of so-called offensive people or something. We shouldn't be afraid of our own tradition. We have to try to follow the line of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And this was Guru Maharaj's intention when he formed Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. He said Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math means the place where the pure teachings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur are preached and practiced. And sometimes Guru Maharaj would even say, he would lament, these things are going on in Chaitanya Saraswat Math, he would say. And once when I was in Russia, in St. Petersburg, Avadut Maharaj was opening a new center, and so in front of Gurudev, they're debating what will be the name of that center, And someone said Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, or wherever that place was, and different ideas. But one of the ideas was Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, and Gurudev just listening, not saying anything. But when that came up as was posited as one of the names, Gurudev slammed his fist on the desk and he said, I will say what is Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, not anybody else. Because, the fact is, now everyone calling their place Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, but The fact is, in the time of Sridhar Maharaj, there's only Navadvip Chaitanya Saraswat Math. And everything else was like affiliated. The two temples in Calcutta, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat, Krishna Nushilanam Sangha, not Sri Chaitanya, only one Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. And outside of Navadvip, only one other place in the time of Guru Maharaj, which was given the name Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. You know where that place was? London. And that was because Guru Maharaj considered London to be his place of service, because Saraswati Thakur wanted him to come and preach in London. And by the insistence of Srila Govinda Maharaj, he gave that, you can say, allowance that our mott in London would be called Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mott. Now there are many Chaitanya Saraswat Mott, but in the time of Guru Maharaj, only London, outside of Navadvip. And Guru Maharaj himself said, "This, I consider the London mott as another room of my Navadvip mott." So that, that's great, fantastic, but that also has its price. That means that we can only do what would be acceptable by Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Srila Govinda Maharaj very liberal compared to Guru Maharaj. And many things that he did, or not that he did, that he allowed in the world mission, in the different motts around the world. One day, one of Gurudev's disciples, South Indian lady, she came to me and she knew Gurudev's coming, and she said, when Gurudev comes, why don't we arrange some dancing for him in the London mott? She said, I know some Kathakali dancers that do like Krishna Leela dance, and we can bring them and Gurudev can see that. And I said to her, if I said yes to that and arranged that, Gurudev would never speak to me again. She said, what are you talking about? And I said, no, he wouldn't allow that in London. She said, but I saw in Mexico they had like mariachi bands, and in Russia they had they're doing these plays, they had some dancing girls, they did all these things. And Gurudev watched that, I saw him there, I saw him watching, he's smiling, everything. I said, yeah, it's true. But you have to remember that those are his motts. He allowed that. But in London, whenever he comes to London, he always says, my Guru Maharaj's mott. This is my Guru Maharaj's mott. Yeah. And so what he would allow maybe liberally in his own mott is one thing, but he wouldn't allow that in his Guru Maharaj's mott. You can think that, right? Did anything like that ever happen in Chaitanya Saraswat Mott in Navadvip in the time of Guru Maharaj? No, never. Nothing like that. They don't even swing the deity on Julan Yatra. They don't even do that. And everywhere else does that. ISKCON do that. Every Gaudiya Mott temple does that. But our Mott, Guru Maharaj didn't allow it. And he said, because I do not consider that my Guru Maharaj wanted that. So, similarly, Gurudev would allow many things for preaching and so many things around the world, but in London, he did not allow that. And also, even when Sri Lanka used to make all those plays with the children, one girl they'd paint her face, she'd be Krishna with the flute and everything, and she did very nicely. No one could do like her, actually. I saw other devotees who've done the children's plays, and they're all rubbish. Sorry, the kids can't get anything right, and they always get it wrong. But when Sri Lanka was doing those plays, they were always lovely, really good. Really, the children remembered their lines. They all did everything. It was really fantastic. But when they would call Gurudev to come and watch those plays, he would say, only because it's the children I'm going to see it. If adults were doing that, I won't come and see it. And not only once he said that, but every time he would say that and come and watch the children play. Because children are innocent. They can do those things. We heard from Guru Maharaj in the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that they made a play in Calcutta of Chaitanya Leela. And the person that played Lord Chaitanya was a renowned prostitute at that time, like a society girl from Calcutta. But she was a prostitute, but she was also a very good actress. Like really good actress. And she played Lord Chaitanya in that play. And they invited Bhaktivinoda Thakur to come and watch the play. And he refused to go. He wouldn't go and see it. So then instead they invited Ramakrishna to go and watch the play instead. And he went, and while he watched that play, he cried, he shed tears to see the performance. And afterwards he told her, "Oh, your play was so inspiring, it inspired me to shed tears for these things." And she also appreciated that, what he'd said, everything. But Guru Maharaj's remark was just deception from beginning to end. Both parties, one deceiving the other. Nothing spiritual there at all. So then this is Guru Maharaj always giving preference to the spiritual substance rather than the form. The form is never the same as the substance. So just making some show will not just be, Guru Maharaj said, they may say it's for creating a good environment for preaching, favorable environment, all these things, but I do not consider that my Guru Maharaj wanted that. But he didn't want a favorable environment for preaching. No, he didn't want that the highest things would become a source of entertainment. No, Krishna's not, Gurudev would say, Krishna's not a sweet ball, that we can just pop in our mouth and enjoy. Form and substance. Most people can't tell the difference. But Guru Maharaj is all about that, all about substance. And he would say that sometimes the two come to clash. Sometimes they move together in harmony because the substance is couched in the form. There's a form for everything in this world, and even the substantial thing has a form that it shows in this world. But that's only so far. So you can't accept that the form and the substance are always the same. And when they come to clash with one another, you have to leave the form and embrace the substance, even if that means going against the convention. And Guru Maharaj's example was the nose and the breath. So we know, that people, especially in the modern time, they thrive to have a nice nose. It's a fashion, isn't it? You can go to the plastic surgeon and have your nose made like perfect to your specification. Maybe you think your nose is a bit big or a bit bulbous or doesn't quite work. It's okay. They can fix it for you so you've got a perfect nose. It's called rhinoplasty. Did you know that? The plastic surgery on the nose is called rhinoplasty. Anyway, but Guru Maharaj is point is that even if you've got a perfect nose, if you can't breathe through it, it's completely useless. And even if something happens that you lose your nose, and I saw a fellow on the television recently. He was in an accident and he lost his nose. It's just a hole there. Actually, he's got some kind of like magnets around there, and they put a prosthetic nose on. Fits on like magnetically. But when he hasn't got it, it's just these like two holes there. But he can breathe. And that's the all-important thing. That even without a nose, if you can breathe, you can live. But if you have a perfect nose, but you're unable to breathe, you won't last very long. So Guru Maharaj would say, what's more important, the nose or the breath? So similarly, we have to ask ourselves in spiritual matters, what's more important, the form or the substance? And always we have to give preference to the substance, the spiritual substance. That's the all-important thing. And the biggest mistake is to confound one for the other. Then we're left in trouble, giving preference to only to the form. And when you think Guru Maharaj was, like his whole preaching was form to be abandoned for substance, then we have to be careful in our preaching and in our fidelity to our line, that we don't give more preference to the form than the substance. We don't confound one for the other. Substance is all important. And that may not always conform to the general idea. But those who are men and women of substance, they will appreciate that substance. They'll be able to appreciate the substance and see beyond the form. So this is Srila Maharaj is all about that, and Srila Govinda Maharaj all about that. Although you won't find a more strict Brahmin than Guru Maharaj. His family name is Bhattacharya. Then he would say, even now I consider myself to be in the vanguard of the rebels. He said, my father didn't like Chaitanya Dev. He considered that Chaitanya Dev caused havoc in the society. But from my mother's side, I learnt about Chaitanya Dev. Because Mahaprabhu didn't accept casteism. He didn't accept that. Previously, and now in India you don't see it so much as you used to, but previously Brahmins and other castes, they didn't mix together. They wouldn't eat together. They wouldn't sit at the same table together. When Brahmins would come to study at Oxford University, they had to bring their own cook with them from India. They wouldn't eat what the other people are eating. So Chaitanya Dev didn't accept that. He considered it to be superficial. Then the caste Brahmins and Goswamis, they considered that he ruined society, because now everyone's mixing with everybody in the name of Nama Sankirtan. Brahmins and Shudras taking prasadam together, that was like never even heard of before. Gandhi also didn't accept that. He made what he called Harijans, and he would travel with the Harijans. Means those who were considered to be outcasts because they worked with leather or various things like that. They were considered. They did like so-called low-class professions. They were considered outcasts, but he didn't accept that. So he had adopted them, called them Harijans. Harijan means children of God. But Guru Maharaj said it's not so easy to be a Harijan. That means a devotee, the Lord's man. the Lord's man, Hari's man. But still, principle is the same principle. And when we were at school, if they taught us about Hinduism, that's what they taught us, about the terrible inequities of the caste system. They didn't teach us anything about anything substantial. Anyhow. Form and substance. Mahaprabhu came to give a new religious idea, Anarpita chirim charat karunyavartina kalo samarpayita munduto jalarasam sabhakti shriyam. And you are the greatest of all avatars of the Lord, because you have come to give what no one has ever given before. Not even Krishna gave before what you've come to give. Krishna Prema. When Krishna showed his Leela, was in a closed group. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they came to break the lock on that and distribute that to everybody. And if that weren't true, then how would I be sitting here now talking about that? That would be impossible, wouldn't it? Because Krishna consciousness is Jaiva Dharma, the religion of the soul. It is not the religion of any caste or any creed or any nationality or anything of the kind. It is the religion of everybody, ultimately. Jivara Sharupahoy, Krishnara Nityadas, Krishnara Tatasta Shakti Veda Ved Prakash. This is Mahaprabhu's answer when Sanatana Goswami asked, Ki ami? Who am I? You are Krishna Das. You are the eternal servant of Krishna. And not just you, Sanatana, but everyone. Everyone is eternal servant of Krishna. And someone may object, oh, isn't Krishna an Indian god? Why are you telling Krishna? We are not Indians, we are not Hindus. Why are you telling Krishna? Because Krishna is the best name of God. The all-attractive one. That's what it means. Not an old man in a cloud with a long beard throwing thunderbolts down on the wicked. No. The most attractive person. That's Krishna. But why? He's coming from India. Why be envious of that? Yeah, why are all the gods manifesting in India? Because it's designed for that. Krishna's Leela is performed in India because India is made for that. Why do you go to a golf course to play golf? Because that's what it's made for. That's what it's designed for, isn't it? So India is called Dharma Bhumi. It's the place of religion. Even Mark Twain said that. Of all countries in the world, India is the millionaire of religions. It's a fact. All the highest religious conception comes from India. It is India's gift to the world. That's what Srila Prabhupada said, in the 1960s. Oh, now India wants to be like America, wants to ape America. All the people are saying, we want to be like America, we want to find technology, supremacy, all these things. But I have come to give what you didn't steal from India. That was our religion. You can have that too, and no charge, you can have it. That's the real gift of India to the world. The highest religious conception comes from India, from the Veda. And all other religions, they're all aspiring for that. There's one Christian theologian, he said, we used to think that Christianity was like the standard of religious thought in the world, and that all other religions revolved around that. But now we see that Christianity is just one conception of religion, and God is in the center, and all religious conceptions are orbiting around Him. And if you look objectively, you'll find that in closest orbit is the Vedic religion. That gives you the greatest knowledge of religion. Everything else is defective to some degree. We believe there's truth in all religious thought, but it's comparative. It's like all systems of currency in the world, they're all valuable, aren't they? They all have some validity. In every country they have different currencies, but it's not all one equals one. 1 rupee is not equal to $1. 1 rupee is not equal to £1. So they measure that by the gold standard. By the gold standard, they work out what the value of each currency is. So the gold standard of religion is rasa. Rasa is Krishna's relationship of love with his devotees. And according to that, you can understand what is the nearness or distance of any religious conception based on rasa. Rasa is the gold standard of religion. There we will find, just like all the planets orbit the sun. Those planets that are closest to the sun, their characteristic is like the sun, hot, burning. And those that are further away, less so. Like Pluto, which has been downgraded. It was downgraded to not a planet, and now it's like a demi-planet or something now, they decided. But anyway, Pluto, furthest away from the sun, freezing. You couldn't sustain life there because it's so cold. What's the next one? Is it Mercury or Venus? Mercury. So hot that we couldn't sustain life there because it's like the sun. It's burning like the sun. So similarly, religious conceptions are all revolving around God, but those that are closest to God, most like God. You'll find that. Then you can look comparatively, objectively, where you will find the greatest knowledge about God. And I can say, you will not find any greater, more complete knowledge than you'll find in the Veda. And of the Veda, particularly Sriman Bhagavatam. Sriman Bhagavatam is the most condensed form of Vedic knowledge. Because every follower of Vedic religion, they recognize the authority of Vyas. Vyas is the compiler of the Vedic literature, right? So that was his purpose, to put everything in written form, because previously there was no written form. People just remembered. But in Kali Yuga, you can't remember what you were doing an hour ago. You walk into a room and think, what am I coming here for? Isn't it? We all have that experience, right? So Vyasadeva knew if it wasn't written down, people would lose it. So that's what he did. He compiled all the Veda. But that was also for him, Vyas isn't static. He's also a person of progressive realization. And when he finished the compilation of all the Vedic literature, he was at the very height of his own spiritual realization and maturity. But still he's feeling some deficiency in him. And understanding that, his guru, Devashi Narad, came to his ashram. Okay, I've come because I understand you're feeling some deficiency in your consciousness. Why? Vyasadeva said, yes, because I did everything that I was tasked with. I presented the whole Vedic literature, starting from the Rig Veda, from the Purana, the Upanishads, the Itihasas, everything. I did all of it, but I'm still feeling like incomplete. Why? Narad said, because what you've done so far, great, fantastic, but you've made a jungle of religious thought, because different Vedic religious texts, they say different things. One says, Vishnu is the supreme. Another says Mahadev, Shiva is supreme. Another says Mother Durga, she's supreme. And another says, the meditation on the impersonal Brahman, that's the supreme. And like so many different thoughts. Then anyone trying to navigate that, trying to find the truth from that, they'll be bewildered. They won't be able to understand that. What is it? Like concisely, what is the truth? Then, so really, you've not really done a service to the world. You've done a disservice. So although you've indicated the truth here and there, now you have to finish your final work. And you can say, some people say Vyasa was the author of the Veda, but he's not the author. He's the compiler of the Veda. The different Vedas are the thoughts of different sages and saints and rishis and so many others. But he compiled all of that. Now you make your own work based on your own realization. Here, I give you these 4 root verses. Meditate on those, you'll understand what is what. So Vyasa began his work, which is Sriman Bhagavatam. That's his own work. He's not the compiler, he's the author. He's the author of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, the junior most of the scripture, but with the senior most thought. Because it's the product of him at his full maturity of his own spiritual realization. And right at the beginning, he says, everything that is superfluous to spiritual understanding, rejected from this book. You won't find it in here. Only what is essential truth you'll find in here. And what people consider to be general religion, which is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Every religion in the world teaches this, under different names. But in Sanskrit, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Every religion teaches this. Practice your religion, your Dharma. As when the God or the gods, they are pleased with you, you'll get Artha. Artha means economic development. And from that you'll get Kama. Not karma, Kama. Kama means enjoyment. You'll enjoy life. Dharma, Artha, Kama. And finally, Moksha. You'll be liberated from this world. Every religion teaches that. Jewish religion, Muslim religion, Christian religion, Hindu religion, all religion teaches that. So, but what we, or Vyasa says, we consider this, or I consider this to be kaitabya. Kaitabya means cheating. Cheating. Why cheating? Because all those things are good in themselves. But kaitabya means cheating because you have neglected to give the real purpose of life, the real aim of life. And that is prema. The real aim of human life is Krishna prema. And Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, they may be steps towards that. But without that Krishna prema, the goal of life, it is insufficient. The Lord is considered to be Satchidananda, right? Everyone knows that. Satchidananda. Sat means eternal. Chit means conscious. And Ananda, full of bliss. And we, individual souls, because we are part of God, we are also considered to be Satchidananda. But if we examine ourselves, we'll say, yes, we are Sat, we can understand. We are eternal. We feel it, we know it. And Chit, we are conscious. I think, therefore I am. I'm conscious of my own existence. But what's the purpose of our existence? So, Anandam, okay? But where is Anandam? Sat and Chit, yes, okay. But Anandam, I'm not feeling Anandam, feeling lacking Anandam. Deficient in the Anandam category. Because Anandam is the food of the soul. The soul has its necessity, it has its food, and that food is Anandam. And Anandam means prema. Krishna prema, Anandam, the same thing. Rasa, the same thing. Happiness, fulfillment, enjoyment, all of these things, realization of our full potential, means Krishna prema. That is Anandam. And without Anandam is to exist with no purpose. Guru Maharaj says, just to exist but without any purpose, this is useless, a waste of time. So the purpose of our life is Anandam. The food of the soul is Anandam. And Anandam means Krishna prema. And Srimad Bhagavatam is all about Krishna prema. The whole of Srimad Bhagavatam is to present that to the world, and nothing less than that. So therefore, the highest truth is in Srimad Bhagavatam. The deepest, senior-most thought in the junior-most of the scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, it is found. It is also known as the Amala Purana, spotless Purana, the Bhagavat Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam. And the preacher of Srimad Bhagavatam is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Radha and Krishna combined. He has come to present that to the world and to teach us that the way for attaining Krishna prema is through Nama Sankirtan, through the holy name of the Lord, through the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. You can get prema. What you could get through thousands of years of meditation in Satya Yuga, you can get through Nama Sankirtan. What you could get through all kinds of difficult sacrifices in Treta Yuga, you can get through Nama Sankirtan. What you could get through elaborate temple worship in Dwapara Yuga, you can get through Nam Sankirtan. In Kali Yuga, there's no other religious principle apart from Nam Sankirtan. The easiest method, simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, you can get everything desirable in all of the previous ages, and everything desirable that was never available before. Spiritual fulfillment only in Kali Yuga. So although Kali Yuga is considered to be an ocean of faults, it's one great quality is that through Nam Sankirtan you can get the highest fulfillment in spiritual life, that which was never available before. So it is said, the gods in heaven are praying to take birth in Kali Yuga so they can take advantage of that. And here it is, everyone. Available to everyone, easily available to everyone. And that's what we're trying to present in this temple. Harinam Sankirtan. And of course, I've gone on longer than I should always do. So now, we will have Arati, and that means we can chant Harinam to the Lord of Sankirtan himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the Lord on our altar. Radha and Govinda combined as one. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sunna Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Gaura.
Devashis Prabhu Ki Jai.
Jai, 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 Jai. Virchandra Prabhu, will you lead the kirtan? Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Ayasomati Nandana Brajavara Nagara
Yasomati Nandana Rasavara Nagara Gokula Vandana
Gopikaya Nadana Madana Manohara
Jai.